Hello and welcome to the third episode in the CryptoSI Vest Development Series. I am CryptoSI and this is CryptoSI Vest. In this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to go over in more detail, the logic behind CryptoSI Vest. So we're going to look into the logic document, which is going to go into some detail about the user experience, what exactly is happening on CryptoSI Vest, why it's happening, and the different options and features that the platform will have at launch. Not everything is written in stone at this point, as we do have some partners that we will be working with and some tools that we will be using. And as we're not fully certain about the parameters and the way those tools will be able to best serve CryptoSI Vest, we can't give absolutely concrete answers on some things. But I'll get into those a little bit later. But let's get started. So we've recently had our landing page somewhat completed, I would say. There's some little bits and pieces which we may need to change, of course. There's some filler information here. So a little bit of our designs which we've done, which we'll look at probably in our next episode. We'll probably touch on them though today as we're looking at the logic, and it does help if we look at the designs, just to give you a graphical representation of what's happening. So the landing page basically just describes what the application does, who it works for, and some of its features. We've got our generic cryptocurrency images here, which will probably change. We also need to sort out the social icons at the bottom here and some of the other stuff in the footer. But anyway, let's really get stuck into this vesting document. This logic document is and will be available on our GitHub. So if you are interested in reading this in further detail, I will put a link to the document itself in the description. Bear in mind that until the application is completely finished, this will be a work in progress document, which is the reason why it is in Google Docs, so that developers can get at it, I can get at it, and anybody else who needs to get at it and comment can do so. If there's something in the document that you feel needs commenting, is incorrect or whatever, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, join our Discord, or send me an email, cryptosi@protonmail.com. Right, so let's get started. Okay, so the logic document outlines the user experience flow and design principles for CryptoSI Vest, cutting edge platform, etc., etc. So what we've done is we defined our goals, which was the goals of this document, to define the user experience flow, to identify key features, support development, ensure usability, promote transparency, establish security standards, facilitate customization, maintain decentralization, guide technical implementation, and set clear milestones. We'll look at mostly number 1, 2, and 10, I would say. The others are, I don't want to say fluff, but you know. So the key features, how things will work within the CryptoSI Vest platform, is you will have your dashboard that will show you all of the tokens that you are vesting in whichever contracts you are vesting them in. They'll also show you how close your vesting is to be being released, and some minor information possibly about the vesting release schedule. What we'll probably move towards is having just information about the release and then links to the actual vesting contracts themselves, which we'll get into in a little while. So let's talk about the vesting. Let's skip the personas. Let's talk about the vesting. Now, we will have 3 different types of vesting at launch. We will have time-based vesting, which is your classic vesting where you have your tokens and they are locked and they are released over either a linear, which is evenly over a period of time. So it might be every month you get a certain percentage, maybe 10% released every month over the next almost 1 year. Or you would have it whereby it starts in 1 year and then becomes linear, or it starts in 1 year and then becomes a cliff. Now, when the release actually starts, we are calling that the trigger point. So at the trigger point can be time-based with CryptoSI Vest, but it can also be price-based. Now, the price-based triggering is the real unique selling point of CryptoSI Vest, the main one, I would say. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about time-based because I guess we all understand that. So we'll speak a little bit more about price-based. Now, what price-based vesting is it's when tokens are released only when the token reaches a predetermined price. We'll also have an anti-flash mechanism to ensure that the price remains stable above the target for a set period of time, meaning that the price will go past the target. Let's say the target is $1 and the token reaches the $1 price. The price will go past the target, even if the release is a cliff and not linear, which I think some people will not like. So we will advise that users use a linear release and not a cliff. A cliff means that everything just gets released at once. So if it is a cliff and it goes above $1, the token goes above $1, effectively what it will mean is that the developer or whoever's got the vested tokens, developer, the team, insiders, advisors, marketers, whoever it is has got these tokens, they can then release these tokens all immediately, all at once, and dump the price. So what we have decided to do is we'll have this anti-flash mechanism, because you can push the price up of an asset for a block or 2 blocks, but you definitely can for a block. And if you do that and then CryptoSI Vest looks at it and says, oh, it is above the price, you can withdraw the tokens, that would be bad. So it has to remain above the price for 48 hours. And that is our anti-flash mechanism. We will talk a little bit more about that a little bit further on. We also then have hybrid vesting. Did I wrap up price-based correctly? So you got 48 hours. So we can do it in, we'll talk about how we can do it actually, but basically it has to be above the price threshold for a period of time. So stable above a price threshold for a period of time. We may only have that with Cliff. We may not have that with linear. We may only have that with Cliff. Like I said, a lot of things are not quite written in stone. We still need to do some testing, speak with our partners and decide which one we think is the best way to go forward. We also have finally hybrid vesting. Now, hybrid vesting, I guess I just touched on it, is when you have a price-based vesting. So you have a trigger which is based on price and not on time. And then after the trigger is reached, you then have a linear release. So you have to reach a price, and even when you reach your price, you then can withdraw your tokens linearly over the course of a year. I think that will be and should be the most popular method for using CryptoSI Vest. That is the one that really puts the power in the hands of the community and removes a lot of the power from the developers or whoever it is that is the main vesting or vestor. So we'll touch briefly on the technical implementation. So this CryptoSI Vest is going to be built on EVM. The smart contracts should work universally across the EVMs. We're not envisioning that any EVMs have got any features that render the smart contracts either potentially exploitable or just unusable. But law of unintended consequences, we can't say for sure until we've done them. The smart contracts will include customizable parameters such as start and end dates for vesting periods, target price thresholds, and release methods, whether it's Cliff Linear or lump sum, which I guess is kind of like Cliff. Audits will ensure compliance with best security practices. So that's how we're going to implement the smart contracts. It will work quite similar to how we implemented on Vulkan Launchpad, which you probably won't be familiar with, whereby we'll have a factory smart contract. The factory smart contract will create vesting contracts, and each vesting contract will be a unique entity. We will have more than likely one vesting contract per coin, or per token, sorry. So if a token already exists and we have a vesting contract for it, the factory will not create another vesting contract for the same token. It will say to you, if you want to vest, here is the contract the developer has made. You can vest to it. In later iterations of CryptoSI Vest, it would make sense that we have multiple vesting contracts, but we do believe that we can have single vesting contracts and even have that single vesting contract hold multiple vesting schedules within it. So let's move on and let's briefly discuss price feeds. Right. So for price-based triggering, we're going to need price feeds. Price feeds are basically when the smart contracts go and gather the information of what the price of an asset is at a certain time. The time will always be now. What is the price of the asset at this block? There are two ways for you to get price feeds. The first way is via decentralized oracles. This way will be a little bit less utilized on CryptoSI Vest, we assume, because it does rely on there being a little bit more liquidity within the actual assets. We're expecting to get a lot more usage from people who have just launched tokens. Newly launched tokens probably won't have Oracle data, and if they do have Oracle data, you can bet your bottom dollar that the Oracle data is coming from our second price feed. Now, our second price feed will be the decentralized pools. So we're talking about liquidity pools on the likes of Uniswap, PancakeSwap, etc., etc. When a person sets up their vesting contract, they will be asked where the liquidity that they want to draw the price from is located, and that will form the place where the price feed will be taken from. Now, we're going to have to mitigate, we're going to have some mitigation as best we can for people having pools that they can easily manipulate. There may be some problems with UniV4 hooks with regards to manipulating price feeds, but that's going to be a moving target, as we honestly don't know what V4 UniV4 hooks are going to look like, as it's only just been released and people are literally moving that as we go. So for now, what we may do is just add a sign that says this is a UniV4 hook, either link to the code or just say beware. And we're going to encourage people who have vesting contracts to not use them. If maybe we'll put an exclamation mark, but if you aren't just in a bog standard UniV2 style without concentrated liquidity, just actual regular liquidity pool, that is what is best. Maybe V3 with concentrated liquidity is fine, but that is what is best. So those will be the two price feeds. Now, with the decentralized oracles, or we won't look into that now. We won't look into that now, actually. Anti-manipulation measures we've just discussed. Technical integration. Okay, so let's quickly speak about price-based vesting triggering. So when the price does reach, say, does reach $1, we're going to have to decide how the vesting contract will know this, because vesting contract can't constantly look at something. So there's two solutions. One I feel is the most likely one, and that is the manual trigger. The manual trigger will be that a user can go into the vesting contract and click check the price, because I think the price is over $1. You'll know if the price is over $1 because you'll see it over $1 on either CoinGecko, or you'll see it when you go to trade in Uniswap or whichever DEX you're using. Once you go in there, you see that your asset has reached this price. You go into the contract, which will be visually represented by something like this, and there will be a button. It'll be a small button that will say trigger release, and then you click it and it does the check. Now, what another option is, we'll have to put a small fee for this. There will be network fees, but we'll also put a small fee from CryptoSI Vest just to stop spamming, especially on networks where transaction fees are super low. So there may be a fee for this. The fee may be, I don't know, $1, $2, $3, something like that. Back-end monitoring services, this will probably be done by third parties if the platform becomes big enough. Any of our partners who have got vesting, partners who've got launch pads, they may have a centralized back-end that simply just continually monitors prices and does the triggering on behalf of the people who have launched their tokens. It wouldn't be that difficult to develop. So it does carry centralization risks. The centralization risks, I think, are quite small because the contracts themselves are decentralized. Unless the main CryptoSI Vest site goes down, which is unlikely, and even if it does, someone can spin up another one. The centralization risks are quite small, so we think they're mitigated. And finally, Chainlink automation. Of course, it's not just Chainlink who provide this service, but Chainlink keepers can automatically track token price and trigger a countdown when the condition is met. This removes the need for anybody to go and have a look and then click it when they want to start their vesting. I don't see this being used quite as much, maybe as manual triggers in some circumstances, but we just don't know, right? We just don't know. Law of unintended consequences, like I always say. Also, one of the problems with this chain automation is that they don't currently support all the chains that we are planning to support. So we have that small chain problem there, but I'm quite sure that we will be able to find a replacement on those chains that we support. That chain it doesn't support, that will offer the same service. I guess good thing about this is that it'll possibly allow for AI agents to have vested tokens and not have to worry about checking prices and then go into trigger releases. But we'll see. Finally, let's go briefly through step by step for setting up a new vesting contract. And we will do a price-based vesting. So this is what the user flow will look like. The user goes into the site and they connect their wallet. When they hit the site, they may see a page something like this. Of course, we've only got dummy information in here, and we will go over the designs in greater detail in another episode, probably in the next one actually. They will see something like this, so they go here and they connect their wallet. Of course, we have dark mode and light mode. Let's do light mode for the rest of this. So they'll connect their wallet. The Then they click create vesting contract, which is here, create vesting. We've got it under quick actions. In testing, that will probably change because it's not going to be something that people often use. Very few people will be creating new vesting contracts. Then you choose your vesting type, price-based, and click next to proceed. We'll just go to here. So we have made one change during the design phase where you actually put your token thing in there, get info. So I probably should add that to the step-by-step actually. So enter your token details, specify the total amount. So what it will be, enter your token details, then you choose price-based. Specify the total amount of tokens to be vested. Dialog will show what percentage of total supply that represents. So you put your vesting condition, you put your release condition, you put your beneficiary wallet address, and you have to put the amount, but obviously there's a scroll bar there. So this is more for layout than it is for actual step-by-step. Define the price trigger. Price can be set against ETH or USDT. We will encourage most people to set it against USDT, mostly because it's easier for the other end users to understand. So it'll be easier for your community to understand your price of your token against USDT than against ETH. Against ETH, it's often going to be a whole heap of zeros and then a number, and that's not really a good user experience. But we have decided to have it set against ETH as well, because we understand that there is a bias for everything to go up against USDT. And some users may prefer if it's set against ETH. So if it's a really complex and you know you've got a really in tune community, they may prefer you to set your price against ETH. Set your price stability period from 0 to 48 hours. That will probably be from 24 to 48 hours. So we may change that. I might change that now actually. Optionally, add a fallback price source. We're also going to have a mechanism for the CryptoSI DAO to flush broken vesting contracts. If for whatever reason you lose your price feed, or you may have a problem with your liquidity pool, where the liquidity pool for whatever reason either gets drained or breaks, or or gets hacked, something outside of CryptoSI Vest's control, we will have a system where you can put forward a proposal to the CryptoSI DAO, and CryptoSI DAO can flush the entire contents of the vesting contract into the DAO, but it can only be done if a proposal is passed. We may add another mitigating circumstance that the proposal needs to be passed and the tokens release has to be co-signed by the developer, possibly. That mitigation is also up for change. Choose a release mechanism all at once. So as soon as the price is met, everything is released, or you can have a cliff release, which is after a piece of time. You can add beneficiaries, so you can stake. I guess you could call it staking. You can vest, I should say, you can vest your tokens from one address, and you can say that the beneficiary is another address. That other address could even be a burn address, which changes the tokenomics quite interestingly, which I guess says once we reach a certain amount, these tokens will be burned. You can also, it gives you, I guess, an air of privacy, because there is that break in between the two. You move it into the vesting wallet, and then from the vesting wallet you can move it to a Tornado Cash or somewhere else where you've got liquidity for you to then fungibly mix your own tokens or whatever it is you want to do. But that's the reason why that beneficiary address is there. Or it could be to the DAO, that when you reach a certain token price, you send this percentage of the supply goes to the DAO, and the DAO can then move on to its next stage. Or after a period of time, you send it to the DAO and the DAO can move on to its next stage. You review everything and you confirm it. Is this what you want to do, etc., etc. And then once that is done, you approve the transaction and the smart contract, which will be the vesting contract, will be deployed on chain along with the tokens that you want vested. We won't go through all of them. Hybrid is pretty much the same. Starts off with price. Once the price is met, then you've got different ways to have the vesting after. So you'll have a linear, obviously if it's thing, you'll have a linear, you set the duration and you'll set the release frequency. So you want it released over 12 months and you want it released equally every week. So every week you'll get your piece of the pie. Click review and confirm. And then it will deploy a smart contract. Time-based is quite simple. And that pretty much is that. So that is the logic behind CryptoSI Vest. It's all pretty straightforward, really. The only real big difference to normal contracts, well, there's a few actually. And we should probably discuss them here. So our competition at the moment mostly is projects like Team Finance, whereby they have vesting, but it costs about $150 up front. Obviously, with these, to set up your own vesting contract will cost you $2 or $3 up front. And that's just the spam filter. Now, when we have certain partners, we may even waive that spam filter because they will have their own spam filtering procedures. So we may not need to have a spam filter with those guys. For example, if we have one with pump.fun and we only have the vested tokens go and be vested once they've been, incubated? I forget the term that pump.fun uses. Bonded. Once they've been bonded. Once they've completed the bonding curve, then they send the liquidity. At that point, they may send a portion of the developer's wallet to CryptoSI vesting contract. We don't need to do a spam filter for that because all of the ones that have been bonded, they've clearly shown that there is a demand for them. And it'll be the same with any AI agent style launch pads or any larger launch pads. We won't need to do a spam filter for them. So for them, it will be absolutely free, away from obviously network fees. This lowers the barrier to entry, of course, and it fully democratizes it because it means everybody can do it. You don't need to contact us. You don't need to speak to us. You don't need to do anything. You just interact with the factory smart contract and the factory smart contract will go and create your vesting for you. The second big difference is in the fees, which we didn't actually discuss here. Okay. Fees, which is definitely should be on here. It's in the proposal, but it's not actually in the logic document. So we've got to add that. With the fees, it is a flat 5% fee on all of the released tokens. So the fee is not charged until the tokens are being released. So every time you release some tokens from a vesting contract, 5% of those tokens that are being released will be sent to the people who are going to receive the fees. 2.5% of those fees will be sent to CryptoSI DAO, and a further 2.5% will be sent to our vesting partner. Now, for each contract, the vesting partner will be different. The vesting partner will be an address which is sent to the factory smart contract at the point when the vesting contract is being created. So, for example, if we have our pump.fun example again, although this is on EVM, so we won't be using pump.fun. But if we have our pump.fun example again, a new token is bonded, gone through its bonding curve, and 50% of the developer's allocation is going to go into CryptoSI Vest. linearly over a year. When that contract is set up, which will all be done automatically from smart contract to smart contract, when that is set up, what will happen is the pump.fund smart contract will send over an address where they want their rewards to go to. Now, 2.5% of each release, token release, will go then to that pump.fund address. Now, the big innovation here is that that fee will be paid in the actual token that's being invested, which has one major plus point, is that you don't actually have to sell your token to pay your fees. You pay your fees in your token. So CryptoSI DAO will be collecting fees from all of these tokens that are vesting here in the token that is being invested. Now with CryptoSI DAO, because it's not a single person, a lot of those tokens will just sit in the DAO, and then the DAO will decide what they want to do with those tokens. Some of them they may decide to keep, and to actually sell those tokens will take a community vote. So often the tokens just won't get sold. Now this is I think a massive selling point for CryptoSI Vest, and it does make it very, very appealing. So we've gone over the half an hour, which I wanted to keep this video down to. Hopefully now you understand a lot better how CryptoSI Vest works, the process behind creating a new vesting contract, which is quite straightforward, and what sorts of partnerships we will be looking for moving forward. In particular, it will be launchpads, of course, and what's in it for the end user, what's in it for the community. I guess we can touch on some future features we're planning to have. We are planning to have features whereby the vested tokens can be either staked or added to liquidity pools if we can find a way to add them to single-sided liquidity pools. So those tokens then could still earn fees. And what we want to do with that is have those fees spread amongst the other people who join the developer investing. So the developer vests, and his tokens, let's say he vests 10% of the entire supply, his tokens then go into a liquidity pool. When they're being traded, the fees from those tokens are held by the vesting contract, and the vesting contract shares those fees amongst the other people who vest that are not the developer. I think that'll be a good way to encourage people to have diamond hands. It's a bit like a everybody compiling but nobody compile out type situation like we had with Ethereum prior to the merge. Anyway, let's not go into too much detail on that. That's a completely different subject. So that's one of the future mechanisms we're planning on having. A second one will be NFT-based vesting, so that when you vest, you will get NFT, and that NFT will be freely tradable. So you may have entitlement to 10% of the tokens of a certain project. Now you can now take that vest and you can go and sell it if you start to lose faith in the project and someone else hasn't lost faith in the project. Again, this is very good for a project because it will mean no downward pressure on the price, because people are effectively buying these tokens OTC. They're effectively almost options that they're buying. So we will be adding that as well. Finally, will be expansion across networks. So although we're starting on EVMs and we're starting on the 10 most populous ones, I guess excluding Unichain, because that's literally just been released, and Ink, because that's also just been released, we will be on all the other top 10 EVM chains. After that, we will be planning to migrate, or expand, let's say, not migrate. We're looking to expand to Solana, Sui, and Aptos. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Remember, it's cryptosi.tech is the platform's landing page, and that will be where the app is located. Any other questions, please join our Discord. I'll put a link to it in the description. It will be discord.cryptosi.tech, I guess. Right. And CryptoSI Vest, sorry. Discord.cryptosivest.tech. And yeah, thanks for watching. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.